Hi, everyone. Welcome again to IB English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today, we have leaf-eared mouse becomes highest dwelling vertebrate.
Are they now our god then? They're above us?
我们的中文标题是科学家在高海拔山顶发现老鼠木乃伊。那这个题目里面的这个 leaf-eared mouse 就是叶耳鼠，那个 leaf 就是树叶的叶，然后 eared 就是耳，叶耳鼠。那 becomes 变成了怎么样？ highest dwelling 就是住的最高的， vertebrate 就是脊椎动物。
We're talking about actual altitude, not valuation.
对，我们在讲的真正的是它的真正的高度。Yeah.
Okay, I'll read the couple of paragraphs on this page, and of course we'll go back and review with more detail. Scientists have recently discovered a species of mice living close to the top of Lulailaco, a volcano on the border between Chile and Argentina. Living at an altitude of just over 6,700 meters, the leaf-eared mice are now considered the highest-dwelling vertebrate species. Scientists initially assumed that this environment would be too difficult to support animal life because oxygen levels are only about 40% of those at sea level, and temperatures regularly drop far below 0 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, the mice were found 650 meters above the volcano's vegetation line, leading researchers to wonder about their food supply. Therefore, when the first mouse was discovered near the peak, scientists assumed it might have accidentally hitchhiked with local people traveling through the area. Subsequent findings of other mice in the region clarified that these rodents were not accidental visitors, but rather were thriving in this extreme environment.
Okay, so scientists have recently discovered a species of mice. A species is a kind of mice. Like, for instance, the species name of humans is
Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens. So this species is a particular specific kind of mice, and it's living close to the top of a volcano called, now it's spelled Lulailaco, right? But I also know that in Spanish, a double L is a Y sound. So, I mean, without the luxury of Googling right now, I'm wondering if it's not Yuyaco. Yuyaco would be much easier to say than Lulailaco. So, I don't know, though. So, I'm just going to call it Yuyaco, because it's easier to say. Neither of them is easier to say. Anyways, it's a volcano on the border between Chile and Argentina, two Spanish-speaking countries.
好，所以呢，第一句告诉我们说，科学家他们最近 recently discovered， 他们 have discovered 发现了一个老鼠的物种 ，a species of mice。那这种老鼠呢，它是 living close to the top of， 它住的是靠近山的一个火山的山顶。那这个火山呢是什么呢？如果是西班牙文的念法，其实我也不太确定怎么念。Yuyaco 之类的哈。
What does it say for the Chinese in the article?
Let's see. 尤耶亚科火山。
Okay, my guess was correct. Yeah. It is a Y sound.
Okay, 好，那它这个是什么呢？这个名字后面一个同位语告诉你，它是一个 volcano， 它是一个火山 on the border between A and B， 就在这两个国家的边界上面，所以在这里它是位于智利跟阿根廷的边境上面，所以 on the border between A and B.
Living at an altitude of just over 6,700 meters, the leaf-eared mice are now considered the highest-dwelling vertebrate species. And altitude is how high something is above the ground. 6,700 meters, that's much higher than anything we have here in East Asia, including the mountains down in Southeast Asia. In fact, the Andes Mountains, of which this volcano is a part, is the second highest mountain chain in the world after the Himalayas. 6,700 meters is about 20,000 feet. I wouldn't want to fall from that distance. The leaf-eared mice are now considered, because they have been found there, they're considered the highest dwelling or living vertebrate species. Vertebrates or vertebrates, 都可以, are animals with a backbone. And it doesn't matter if they fly or live on the land or in the ocean. If they have a backbone, they are vertebrates.
好，所以呢，接下来这个是分词构句。他说 living， 他们生活 at an altitude of， 就是在这样的一个高度上面啊，什么高度呢 ？just over， 刚刚超过6700公尺高度，非常的高。因为这个安第斯山脉是世界第二高的山脉，仅次于喜马拉雅山脉，所以它也有很高很高的山。那这个所谓的叶耳鼠呢，它是居住在6700公尺以上的高度。那他们 are now considered， 他们现在被认为，那后面直接加补语，被认为是什么呢？是被认为是居住在最高的地方的这个 vertebrate， 就是脊椎动物的这种物种。
Scientists initially assumed that this environment would be too difficult to support animal life. So if you initially assume something, you start off with a base belief about the situation. If you assume something, you're like, okay, we think it is probably like this based on some condition. And initially means at the beginning. And they did this because oxygen levels are only about 40% of those at sea level. So sea level means closer to flat land. And the oxygen that's carried in the air on these mountains is less than half of what we breathe here on sea level or at, normal elevations or typical elevations for most population. And also another thing is that temperatures regularly drop far below 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degrees Celsius is freezing. And if they regularly drop below freezing, that means they're often colder than freezing. So that's not like really an ideal, living environment for anybody.
Polar bears.
Well, I mean, most mammals that are not polar bears don't really like that kind of,
frigid temperatures.
That frigid temperature and low. See, polar bears get plenty of oxygen, though. They're at sea level.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
好，所以呢 that's why they call this environment too difficult. It's a difficult environment.
Yeah, so that's why they, at the beginning, assumed that this environment wouldn't support mammals.
好，没错，所以这个句子一开始他说科学家们 initially 就是 at the beginning， 本来他们 assumed， 他们本来认定，就是这个假定认定的，几乎是认定的 to take for granted 或者 suppose， 他们本来以为呢 this environment 这样的一个环境呢 would be too difficult， 会太难以忍受。这个 difficult 在这里不是困难的意思啊，这里的 difficult 是 not easy to endure 或者是 trying 太 severe 哈，所以没有办法。因为太 difficult， 所以它没有办法 support， 没有办法支持支撑的 animal life， 没有办法支持动物的生命。为什么呢？因为 oxygen levels 就是氧气的含量呢，它只是大约是 40% of those at sea level， 大概跟海平面的这个氧气含量，这个 those 就是代替前面出现过的 oxygen levels， 所以大概只是海平面的氧的含量大概只有 40%。所以氧气不够，而且呢 temperatures 温度 regularly 就是 usually 这个 ordinarily 常常经常 drop 会下降 fall far below 是远远的低于这个摄氏0度，所以它不只是摄氏0度，是气温是常常远远低于摄氏0度，所以那个地方是很不适合生存的。
Furthermore, the mice were found 650 meters above the volcano's vegetation line, leading researchers to wonder about their food supply.So you've probably seen pictures of very tall mountains, and there are no trees at the top of tall mountains. It's mostly ice, rocks, and not much more. So what do these animals eat? I mean, mice are pretty small.
I mean, do they eat insects is my question.
Can insects live at that altitude?
Also, maybe they're eating lichens? Like lichens are not without protein.
True.
好，所以这个地方讲到说呢，这种老鼠呢 were found 被发现，这发现怎么样？是650公尺高于这个火山的 vegetation line， 就是植被线，就有植物的那条线。所以换句话说，他们的被发现的地方是在有植物的地方，比有植物的地方更高650公尺。因此呢 ，leading researchers to 就 lead someone to do something 就导致他们这样子，使得这些研究人员呢 wonder 他们想要知道，很好奇 about 关于他们的 food supply 他们的食物的供应。那个地方没有植物，那他们吃什么呢？
Well, I mean, there's mice that live in the desert. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's not trees or seeds like tree seeds in the desert either. So I wonder if it's something similar.
Yeah， 因为沙漠里面也是有老鼠的，那里也没有什么树，所以总之他们一定要有点东西，有食物来源，他们才能在那里存活。
So, but because of the scientists' initial assumption that they're not going to find any animals here, therefore, when the first mouse was discovered near the peak, scientists assumed it might have accidentally hitchhiked with local people traveling through the area. What they're implying is that somehow this mouse followed or got carried by local people traveling and got kind of lost. They were like, oh, you poor little mouse, you're lost.
Yeah, 所以呢 therefore 因此因为那个地方没有东西吃啊，所以科学家呢当这个第一只老鼠被发现 near the peak 在这个山顶附近被发现的时候呢，科学家们就 assume 他们就认定这一只老鼠 might have 这个是对过去的推测，从现在对过去的推测，他们之前呢可能是 accidentally 就意外的 hitchhiked 搭便车，搭谁的便车呢 hitchhiked with local people 这当地的人，他们怎么样 traveling through the area 就是旅行经过这个地区的人，换句话说他们觉得这个应该这个老鼠不是自己爬上来的，可能是躲在那背包里面然后怎么样就被这些经过这个地方的人所带上来的。
Subsequent findings of other mice in the region clarified that these rodents were not accidental visitors, but rather were thriving in this extreme environment.
Maybe they're thriving because they haven't got many predators up there.
Yeah. 所以
Just birds.
Birds, yeah, hawks, for sure.
好，所以这个 subsequent 就是后来的之后的，在这件事情之后，第一次发现之后的 findings， 这里指的是 a thing that is found or discovered。换句话说，就是他们找到其他的老鼠，而且是复数，不止一只。所以他们找到了其他的老鼠在这个地区，因此呢 ，clarified 就是厘清了 ，to make clear。厘清了说，这些 rodents 这些啮齿类动物呢，他们不是 accidental visitors， 他们不是偶然的来这里玩的人，所以他们是住在这里。accidental 就是意外的、偶然的，所以他们不是偶然而来的这些 visitors， 而是他们就住在，而且不只是住在这里，而且 thriving 茁壮成长在这样的一个 extreme environment， 在这样的一个极端的环境当中茁壮成长。
All right, so what did you learn? And the question here is, what record do leaf-eared mice now hold? Strongest mouse in the world.
好，所以这个叶耳鼠现在是什么记录的保持人呢？
And the answer is they are the highest dwelling vertebrate species. They are our vertebrate overlords.
所以答案是他们的记录是他们是住的最高的脊椎动物。
Okay, let's flip the page and look at our second short article today.A new theory on the extinction of the dinosaurs. A theory is an idea based on scientific facts, but it's a theory, so it's actually a guess or sometimes an assumption usually about something serious, such as the nature of gravity or how to measure distances with sound rather than light, those sorts of very interesting questions. And this theory is about the dinosaurs, that I'm sure you know by now. The extinction of something is the complete end of something, which means of a living animal or group of animals, there aren't any anymore. And how could this be? And there are many theories about this. I'll read through our couple of paragraphs here, and then we'll go over sentence by sentence.
Yeah, 好，这篇文章的中文标题是恐龙灭绝之谜真相揭晓。好，那这 extinction 就是灭绝的意思。
For 165 million years, dinosaurs ruled the earth. However, this all suddenly changed when a huge asteroid struck near present-day Mexico and wiped out 75% of species on the planet. While scientists have traditionally believed the asteroid impact was the main force behind the mass extinction, new theories suggest it was more likely the large clouds of dust that it caused. Scientists hypothesize that after the asteroid struck, a vast quantity of dust and soot was ejected into the air. It's probable that this dust remained in the atmosphere for as long as 15 years after the event. Due to the limited penetration of sunlight through the dense dust clouds, plants couldn't perform photosynthesis, and temperatures may have dropped by up to 15 degrees Celsius. Such harsh conditions would have made it difficult for most species to survive.
So for 165 million years, which is way longer than Homo sapiens has been on this planet, dinosaurs ruled the earth. Now, when you say ruled, like we imply there's some sort of representational government or some sort of king/dictator. I mean, that's what ruling means. It means having control over a group of people and deciding how they're going to live. But that's not what we mean by dinosaurs ruling the earth. Because first of all, we weren't there. We don't even know if they had representational democracy or dictatorship. Second of all, we don't even know how sentient they were. To be honest, we just have their skeletons and when their skeletons approximately existed. However, so what we mean by they ruled the earth is that they were the dominant life form on the earth. They were the largest, most widespread life form on the earth during this time. So during this time, mammals were pretty rare, and I think they only started showing up towards the end of the dinosaurs' existence, yes?
Well, actually, small mammals were around when dinosaurs first got started, but dinosaurs were so much better at finding food and defending themselves and getting really big that these poor little mammals had little chance of ruling the world.
Yeah, so this ruled equals dominance is actually the correct way to say it. Also, it's more alliterative and accurate to say reptiles ruled the earth, isn't it?
好 ，OK， 好，所以呢，各位可以看到，他说一开始就讲说，大概有16500万年的时间，这么长的一段时间里面呢，这个恐龙 ruled， 通常我们翻成统治，这里可以翻成主宰的意思 ，dominate， 主宰的地球。那其实更精确的说，应该是爬虫类，因为恐龙是一种爬虫类。不过呢，这里重点是这个 ruled， 在这里我们可以翻成主宰。
However, this all suddenly changed when a huge asteroid struck near present-day Mexico and wiped out 75% of species on the planet. I'm sure you've seen movies or television programs showing you this. An asteroid is a large rock, and it maybe have been part of a planet long ago, or it was unable to form a full round planet because it was too small. In either case, one of them, which we would consider huge, it was about the size of Mount Everest. Put that on for size. Struck, it hit in where Mexico is today, in the Gulf of Mexico, and wiped out. It killed 3/4, 75% of species on the planet.
好，但是呢 ，this all suddenly changed， 这一切都突然改变了。当一个很大的小行星 asteroid 就小行星，虽然说小行星呢，但它其实还是蛮大的，好像那个阿尔卑斯山那么大的那样一个行星，可能还更大的行星，它 struck， 它撞击了 struck 在这里就是 collide C-O-L-L-I-D collide 或者是 crash into， 它撞击到靠近哪里呢？靠近在当今的 present day 今天的墨西哥附近，然后它 wiped out 就是摧毁了 to destroy completely， 大概 75% 的物种 on the planet， 地球 75% 的物种因为这小行星撞到地球，所以呢就被灭绝了。
So while scientists have traditionally believed the asteroid impact was the main force behind the mass extinction, so the mass extinction was wiping out 75% of species on the planet. To extinguish something is to wipe it out. So an extinction is a related word that means that we're wiped out. And mass means lots and lots of them. So the impact or the hitting of the Earth by the asteroid, this main force was not what killed 75% of species. That was like a bomb going off and it killed a bunch, but it didn't wipe out entire species. New theories suggest it was more likely the large clouds of dust that it caused. So dust is little bits of rock and dirt, and they fly up into the air. And we know that when volcanoes throw up a whole bunch of, particulates into the air, you can cause global cooling. This is what happened when a volcano in Indonesia blew up and caused
worldwide temperatures to drop.
Caused famine in France because their crops failed because there was no sunshine. It was like an entire summer of storms. That's when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, by the way. She was like trapped inside in bad weather with two poets. Anyways, the point is, large amounts of dust in the atmosphere that last long enough would have a planetary ecological impact.
好，所以呢 while 是虽然科学家们 have traditionally believed 传统上面他们认为是这个小行星它的 impact 它的撞击，这小行星的撞击 was the main force behind 就某个东西背后主要的力量，所以他们认为小行星撞击呢是 the mass extinction 就大量的灭绝的背后的主要的力量。虽然是这样子，但是呢 new theories 一些新的理论呢 suggest 显示 it was more likely 更可能的是什么呢？是 the large clouds of dust 那很大很大那个尘埃的云 dust 就是灰尘，那尘埃然后因为太多太浓就变成像云一样的 clouds of dust that it caused 这个 it 就是指 the asteroid impact 这个小行星的撞击所 caused 所导致的这个尘埃云才使得这么多物种灭绝。
Scientists hypothesize that after the asteroid struck, a vast quantity of dust and soot was ejected into the air. When you make a theory, you hypothesize about something, and this huge asteroid did create clouds of dust ejected, thrown up into the air.
好，所以科学家们假设在 hypothesize 他们假设呢，这个在这个小行星撞击之后，那a vast quantity of dust and soot. Soot 就是烟灰煤烟，那大量的灰尘跟烟灰呢 was ejected 被喷出 eject 就是喷出来 into the air 被喷到空中里面。
It's probable that this dust remained in the atmosphere for as long as 15 years after the event. So if 1 year of dust is going to cause France to starve, imagine 15 years. You're going to lose 75% of the species on your planet is what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's probable that 就有可能尘埃云呢 remained in the atmosphere 就停留在大气层里面 for as long as长达15年的时间 after the event 就这件事件之后就撞击之后呢可能长达15年的时间大气层里面都是这些灰。
Due to the limited penetration of sunlight through the dense dust clouds, plants couldn't perform photosynthesis, and temperatures may have dropped by up to 15 degrees Celsius. Penetration is to be able to go through something. If you are limited, if you can imagine a lot of dust around you, it will be like a cloud that blocks the sun. If plants don't have sun, they cannot perform or operate photosynthesis, which is to make sugar and starch from sunlight, clever little plants, and temperatures may have dropped by up to 15 degrees Celsius on average. That would kill many, many, many animals and plants.
好 penetration 就是穿透，那 limited 就是有限的穿透，所以由于阳光只能有限的穿透这些尘埃，这个穿透是 through the dense dust clouds. Dense 就是很浓的这些尘埃的云团，因为这样子阳光穿不透，所以呢植物它们没有办法进行光合作用，然后呢温度会掉下来 dropped 大概可以掉多少呢？掉到高达15度摄氏15度，所以它那个温度下降可以高达摄氏15度。
Such harsh conditions would have made it difficult for most species to survive.
好，那这样的一种 harsh 很严厉的状况呢 would have made it 就是应该会使得，就从现在对过去的推测，使得这件事情变得很困难。什么事情很困难呢？让大多数的物种 to survive 让他们能够存活下来，那是很难的，因为这个状况太严厉了。
Okay, we have one question for you. Think about this. According to the new research, what is the primary cause of the extinction of dinosaurs?
好，根据这个新的研究，恐龙灭绝的主要原因是什么？
Okay, our answer is the large clouds of dust that the asteroid impact caused.
好，答案是这个小行星撞击地球所造成的大量的这个尘埃云。
Okay, that's it for today's program. Hope you learned something and enjoyed learning too. Until the next time,
Bye-bye.